Hey traders, Jason here from Levitt Brothers. So in this video I'm going to talk about some trade examples, specifically some stocks coming out of bases. I do this occasionally, just showing you example after example after example. You need to do this if you want to be a good trader. You want to do this full time. You want to make a lot of money. You got to do this, okay? Have a specific trading style and collect trade examples. Collect hundreds. Even over time you're going to have a couple thousand. Grab your laptop, go to a coffee shop, go to a bookstore, and just go bar by bar, chart by chart, and study them. Train your eye to see the setups as they're playing out, okay? And just keep looking at them over and over and over to train your eye to see them, okay? So that's all I'm doing here. So I'm just like going into my trade library. I'm grabbing a couple charts, pulling them out, doing a video about them. Like all these examples are just from the last week or so. So I'm not like grabbing stuff from like past, just showing you some examples. I don't expect you to be able to exactly copy off me, okay? But you can grab a nugget or two here or there and maybe incorporate it into what you do. Maybe you're like 90% of the way there and you just need like one little thing that gets you over the hump. Maybe there's something here, okay? That's why I do these, okay? That's pretty much why I do these. I'm just giving back to the community. I wish I had access to this stuff 25 years ago when I started. I'm just giving stuff out to the trading community. Hopefully I could, hopefully somebody could grab a little nugget and like that could be the thing that sets them over the top, and then they're like off and running, making solid money. All right, so let's go through a couple examples here. All right, here is BitMine. Lots of press on this stock right now with Tom Lee. Over time it's probably going to go a lot higher, but man, this thing's volatile. But anyways, let's look at what's going on here. So you can see here we got a little bit of a triple bottom here. What I want to key in on is right over here where the stock comes off of a low. Okay, it doesn't really look that much different than other bounces, but what happens is the RSI here actually breaks out. Okay, notice the RSI breaks out and then it flags here. Okay, it flags while the stock is actually still basing. Okay, a lot of people who poo-poo technical analysis will say indicators are just derivatives of the chart, therefore they're always lagging. I have not found that to be true at all. Okay, sometimes they are. Okay, sometimes they lag, but there's a lot of times where an indicator moves first. And in this case, the RSI broke out and started to flag while BitMine was still in its base. That was a clue. That was a hint that the downside was limited and the stock was probably going to break out to the upside. Okay, so you got this little move up here. RSI breaks out, starts to flag. MACD crosses up, and you can see it's like steadily crossing up. And then stochastic had already put in a very obvious higher low. Okay, so when you talk about a breakout here from RSI, MACD expands. You can see the histogram, the bars are getting bigger and bigger. Stochastic crosses back up. We got a lot of things lining up here while the stock is still in consolidation mode in a base that was going back, more than a week below, the 50 period moving averages of the hourly chart. And so we have plenty of hints here from the indicators that this stock is like building pressure and it's going to go up. And which is exactly what happened. The stock ended up like doubling in less than 2 weeks. Now, most stocks are not going to double, okay, but the trade was still there. The setup was there, still there. The sequence, the indicators were still there. So there's definitely something to grab here that you can lean on. All right, here's ONDS. All right, so let's see what's going on here. So the stock was, topped here, lower highs, lower lows, comes up here, and then it moves off of a low. RSI, as you can see, breaks out of the RSI, and then the RSI flags over here. MACD crosses up. Stochastic was already moving up, okay? So then the stock pops right here, and then you could see it flags. Okay, so as it's flagging, you're kind of wondering, first of all, this is a good sign. Like gets above several key moving averages. It's riding the 21-day moving average, which is the not 21 day, it's the 21 period moving average, which is the orange line here, and the 50 period moving average, was the blue line here, actually started to come down and cup it. Okay, so another good development down here is you can see like RSI flagging, MACD trending up, not going back down. stochastic remaining at an elevated level. So when the stock over here is kind of basing for a couple of days at a higher level, the one thing you're asking yourself is like, is this going to go back down and test the lows? Maybe we need to do a double bottom. Like, what's the situation? But the indicators are telling us that the fact that the RSI was holding up at a high level, or at a moderately high level, like above the 50% line, MACD was continuing to trend up. Okay, it was not crossing it back down. Stochastic was holding up, although even if the stochastic like cycled down and then moved back up, that'd be perfectly fine. The indicators were telling us that they were in agreement with this stock reversing upward, and it probably was not going to go back down to the lows and do a double bottom. And so we got to move out of this range here, and as you can see, we got a nice move that followed over the following couple of days. All right, here is Redcat. So stock obviously tops over here, 12.5, trends down over the course of a couple weeks, down to 8, so we're down like 35%-ish. So we got this move here, which is absolutely not a big deal at all. It's not even really noticeable. It's just a little, you barely see it on this hourly chart. But during that move, RSI breaks out, MACD crosses up, stochastic comes out of a base and crosses up. Okay, so this little move, which is not that much different than like that and that gap up, and actually a lot of stuff is being signaled here from the indicators. So RSI crosses up, MACD, stochastic. So then we get a move down here to a lower low. But during that lower low, notice that the RSI did not fall back into oversold territory. The MACD never crossed back down. It remained in uptrend mode, and the stochastic merely cycled down and then recrossed back up. Okay, so when you get a lower low like that and the indicators hold up, the indicators are rejecting that move lower, and they're telling you that, like, no, we want to move up. There's positive upside pressures building. So it pops off the low. As you can see, another trend line could be drawn here with RSI, and then it's just like one after another. RSI breaks out, MACD starts to expand. You can see the histogram bars are getting bigger, and the stochastic, which had cycled down, recrosses up and goes up, and then we get a nice bounce here. Now you might say, what's the big deal? Well, this is a nice bounce from like 8 to 10 that lasted, from like 2.5 days or so, less than 2 days. Okay, assuming you can't get in exactly at the open over here and sell at the exact high, we're talking like basically a little bit more than 2 days. The stock goes from 8 to 10 very quietly. No one's talking about it. No one's paying any attention. And if you get good at that, you're a full-time trader making a lot of money. Like, you get really good at that, and you can see over here, like, volume 6.8 million. So really, really easy to size up on this stock. Just get good at that, and you're off and sailing. Next one, Soundhound. So what we have here, stock obviously trending down over here, lower highs, lower lows. This is an hourly chart. So this is, trending down for almost an entire month. Then we get a little bit of a move off the low here, and RSI. So you get the RSI moves up, and then it breaks out. MACD crosses up. Stochastic had already crossed up. Okay, so it didn't take much just to get the indicators moving here. The indicators actually started to put in, they started to hint at, things getting better. Like, for example, lower low here, higher low over here with the histogram. So there were hints along the way. So then this stock moves out. Let's assume you don't play this, okay? It's a weak stock. It's moving down. You're probably not going to be that good unless this is the only stock on your radar, or maybe you only have like 2 or 3 stocks on your radar. You're probably going to miss the first move. So stock moves up, gets rejected by its 50 here, and then it flags. Okay, but again, like I said with a previous chart, you're wondering, is this stock going to fall back down to its low and do a double bottom, or is it going to hold up? So the fact that the RSI moved up and then was simply flagging, the MACD never crossed down. It was trending up the whole time. It got close to crossing down over here. Stochastic did a little double bottom. So then you get the RSI breaks out here. MACD quickly expands off of as you can see, and stochastic comes out of a low here. Now this was earnings, okay? In today's market, you could argue that holding into earnings is kind of risky, and I totally agree. If you don't want to be long into earnings, that's probably a wise choice. There have been some huge earning moves, both up and down, so if you don't want to take the risk, certainly reasonable to do that. But the trade was still there. So even if you didn't have earnings, we probably would have come up over here. Probably not, we're not going to go up that much, but the trade was there. The trade was there to move off of a low, flag, indicators refused to move down. Everything was there. Next up, Tesla. This is the leveraged version of Tesla. So let's see what's going on here. So Tesla moves, down, 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 takes out the low from here, moves off of a low here, okay? It's not reversing up yet, at least you can't assume that, but when it moves up off the low here, what happens is we get a breakout from the RSI, okay? And you guys know by now that I draw trend lines on the RSI. We get a breakout from the RSI, MACD crosses up, stochastic was already moving up. Now, as Tesla's basing here, we're asking ourselves, is it going to go down to the low? Are we going to get a double bottom? What's going to happen? And what happens is we get a flat, the RSI flags, MACD never crosses back down, didn't even get close, and the stochastic merely cycles down and then reasserts. Okay, I love the combination of MACD and stochastic, where the MACD continues to trend up, and within that trend, that's like the longer term trend, you get these, like this is the shorter term, shorter term, shorter term. So the MACD stays trending up this entire time, and each one of these dips from the stochastic is a buying opportunity. So anyways, going back to this chart, as this was forming here, the indicators were telling us upside pressure is building, we're not going to go back down to the low, and sure enough, we got a breakout here, RSI broke out, MACD expands, stochastic continues up, and boom, we're off. We're talking about like mid-10s to over 13, solid trade, last 3-4 days. It's perfect. You get good at that, slowly start to increase your size, and you're doing great. All right, so no big deal here. Same charts I show constantly, same indicators, same methodology, same indicators. Just find something that works for you, study it, practice it, get good at it, collect examples, and then study them, train your eye to see them. Once you get good at it, you can slowly start to increase your size, and like that's where professional traders really make their money. Like they don't have a higher win percentage. They're not necessarily able to nail bigger moves. What they do is they're good at something, and then they do it with size, and that's what separates the guy who makes money versus the guy who like truly makes a lot of money. All right, we'll see you next time.